Hey y'all, it is I, Anthony the Canadian Guy, and welcome to Wrestlesode. Today we are talking with the promoter behind WrestleCore out in Vancouver, Kobra Kai, a brilliant mind, a really well-spoken guy, so much fun, very informed of the wrestling business. I had this conversation with him here today, and man, it was amazing. Honestly, if you're a wrestler, even just a fan, you can learn so much from watching this episode. It was a really great time, and literally anybody who I've ever spoken to about Cobra has had nothing but great things to say. So you really want to take a listen to this because it was such a great episode. Just a couple of little notes. We are coming towards the end here of season 2 here at Wrestlesode. As we move in towards season 3, we have a couple of things we want to do, a couple of updates, a couple of tweaks here and there to make things a little bit more fun and engaging for all of you. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's listened in so far here on season 2 here at the Canadian Wrestling Archive. We have blown past 10,000 views this season over the last 3, 4, 5 months, I think it was, doing season 1 or season 2. So thank you so much. But anyways, enough about that. Let's get straight into our interview here today with Kobra Kai. Cobra, how are you doing today, sir?
I am living my best life, of course, every minute.
I like to hear that. Well, you do live in Vancouver. It's kind of hard not to live your best life when you live in such a beautiful city.
Very much so.
Oh my gosh, look at that view. You look out there,
the mountains.
You could just see grass. Like there's nothing here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Alberta's so flat you can see your dog run away for 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah. That makes me think of that the intro to Corner Gas. If you remember that old show, it's like you could see your dog running for 3 days. I don't remember exactly how it goes, but
I've never watched. I have a hard time watching Canadian programming.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, there's something in the production value that just throws me off. I don't know what it is.
It does feel like a lesser production quality, I guess, when you definitely compare it to things against the States. But I don't know. For me, I grew up on SCTV and Kids in the Hall, so I kind of love that production style personally.
Yeah, SCTV and Kids in the Hall, they're they're top of the heap. I would watch that thing through a greasy, translucent, takeout bag.
Oh,
still amused.
Absolutely, those two especially. I don't know, skit comedy from the mid to late 80s and early 90s. It was just top notch to me, in my opinion.
It's about like television programs from the UK and Canada that all kind of have this sort of same production vibe about them. But I'll say Kids in the Hall, they were Canadian. There were jokes in there that only we would get. You would play that for an American person, they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get Salad Head or whatever his name was, Lettuce Head, and that kind of
Cabbage Head.
Cabbage Head. That's what it was. Cabbage. You guys talk about someone from Boston or what?
Would you date a guy with a cabbage for a head? I can't do that.
A couple people would date a guy with a mask on his face, but I don't know about a cabbage for a head.
It's a bit of a leap for some people. I mean, already this interview has completely gone off the rails. I love that about this. It's always the fun. This is how a good conversation always starts. But
absolutely.
First up, I will kind of do this. So, Cobra, you are an I know you don't like me say these kind of things, so I'm going to say them, incredibly well-respected mind, not just in the Vancouver scene, but in terms of Western Canada. Every single person who I've reached out to about you has literally said nothing bad, only that you are a brilliant mind. The social medias that have been posted, people doing their retweets, you, sir, are an incredibly well-respected individual outside of in the Vancouver and Western Canadian scene. And first up, I want to say thank you because I know how much work you put into that scene. And as somebody who's living in Alberta, I can look over to the Vancouver scene and I see exactly what you're doing, and it's spreading like a virus, and I love it. So thank you.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah, no, it cost me $5 each to get those people to say nice things about me. So, I'm up to $35.
I was gonna be best $30 well spent. So how did it all start for you, Cobra? Obviously, you've been in the Vancouver scene for a while. You're a promoter now. You run your own business. You've been a wrestler, but it all started somewhere. How did you fall in love with wrestling?
It all started. So I grew up outside of a small town called Orangeville, which is famous for Edge and Christian coming out of Orangeville, and they were actually my older brother's best friends. And my older brother's Sin Bodhi, if anyone cares. He's awesome. And I took karate class back then, and I loved ninja movies. And as a little kid doing karate, and so when Edge and Christian said they were going to wrestling school, I thought it was my little kid karate class. I didn't think it was the real thing. Kind of like that disconnect between karate class and ninja movies. I thought was the disconnect between the WWF that I watched and what they were doing in wrestling. And then I went to one of their first indie shows, and I was like, holy shit, that is the real thing. And that's sort of how you fall into anything, right? You love it as a kid. You like it as a kid. You meet someone who does it, and you follow into it. I could, if I met a comedian, I could have been a comedian. If I met a guitar player, I could have been a guitar player. If I met a race car driver, I could have been a race car driver. But instead, I was tagging along, being this annoying little younger brother to a couple of up and coming pro wrestlers at the time, and that's how I fell into it. Took my first training classes in Toronto, and it did not go well. I was the guy who did not get it at all. I sucked, and very quickly realized, I was not the Undertaker. And so they shipped me off to Mexico City, where I trained with CMLL and Tony Salazar and a couple other places, like 6 days a week. And at the time, people shit all over Lucha. They hated Lucha. They said, it's not real wrestling. It's not real. It's just fucking circus shit. And and now, Lucha is like a staple. Like if you don't do hybrid wrestling, you're just not going to become a pro wrestler anymore. And so that training was awesome for me. Taught me, how to move and all that stuff, and kind of become the wrestler I was. I was a professional wrestler for 6 years of my life, which, I wasn't a waiter or a bartender or anything else. I was a pro wrestler for 6 years of my life. And couple of tryouts at WWE, a couple injuries later and stuff like that, a couple of surgeries, a couple of reconstructive shoulder surgeries later, I decided my time is best spent producing rather than performing in the ring. And I came out to Vancouver, I say like 6 years-ish ago, and I met the lady who would become my wife, Miss Calamity Kate. Who's a phenomenal entertainer in her own right. She's an award-winning filmmaker. And she found out I trained in Mexico, Lucha style. She asked me if I'd be willing to, co-produce a Lucha Libre style wrestling show with her. And we did. It was the very first Lucha Libre Spectacular at the Waldorf, right in the heart of Vancouver. And it was the largest drawing indie show Vancouver's ever had, which I'm very, very proud of. And every year since then, we just finished our 4th one. And every year we've broken the attendance record. And from those sort of one-off shows during the pandemic, and in the earlier part of lockdown, we decided to run a regular brand called WrestleCore. And with the support of the Haida Heartthrob Adam Ryder and Vinny the Voice and Mr. Joe King and a handful of other awesome people who I will name drop relentlessly today, we got a pretty kick-ass little fucking punk rock danger show that we call WrestleCore. And I'm really stoked on it. Well, it took a long time to answer your question. How'd that work out for you?
It was amazing. I have so many things to break down, though, because I think, just covered like 2 decades in the span of about like 3 minutes, I think, approximately.
And change. Yes.
Well, it's great because we'll break it down then. So for your case, I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning because you just like name dropped Edge and Christian and then went straight right away from it. So you grew up not like most kids who were like, oh, I'm going to get into wrestling because it's like really cool on TV. And I mean, you did like it in that regard, but you like legitimately knew Edge and Christian as a kids, and then you got to see how it was like for them to train, and then that was more your path into the world of wrestling.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll say Edge is exactly how he is presented on television. He is genuinely one of the most sincere, nicest, generous human beings on the planet, who always takes the time of day for everybody, and helped me out a ton. If it weren't for him, Ron Hutchinson never would have given me the guidance that he did. Thank you, Ron Hutchinson. And Wonder Boy, and Christian is exactly how he's presented on TV. Can I swear on this thing?
A little bit, yeah. Go for it.
He's a cunt. but he's love him or not, he's definitely one of the top professional wrestlers in the world's ever seen. And 2 minutes of ring time with either of them is 5 years worth of ring time with anybody else. And as far as I'm concerned.
I want to confirm this. So you, from a personal perspective, Edge, as nice as they come. Christian, yes. You could take him or leave him on the personal side of things.
Prefer the leaving side, yes.
All right. Well, first up, I love that this is how this started. That's amazing because I mean, it's so good.
I haven't seen her talk to him in. I couldn't even tell you years. I would be very happy and excited to see him as like kind of nostalgic, like childhood kind of memory thing, but also just as like a wrestler or someone in the wrestling business, I'd be excited to see him. I'd buy him a beer or hard seltzer, whatever it is he's having.
Well, fair. Maybe you haven't spoken to him, just like as you said, because he's just so rude. He's just, what a guy.
No,
So you said you trained in wrestling, but you weren't the one that felt like it came naturally to you. Like, did you always like what about wrestling did you find to be like really hard? Was there one thing over another that you're like, well, I kind of get this, but this aspect is really dragging me down?
yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think everybody who steps into the ring is going to excel at certain things and struggle with others. Nobody's the same. And for me, athleticism is something I definitely struggled with. I didn't even know a guy named Jim, let alone go to a gym at the time. I was a guy to do a front roll. I just land straight on my head and knock myself out. And one of the beautiful things about training in Mexico City is you see all these luchadors, these little guys, and they're just as wide, they're just as fat as they are tall, and they can do these incredibly athletic things. You're like, okay, so it's not because they're in shape and fit. I mean, that helps, but that's not why. There's like technique to everything. And the truth of the matter is, Lucha has been around a lot longer than the pro wrestling we know. It started way before the carny kind of North American wrestling we know today. They just have better technique for everything. They're more practiced. It's more of a career option there for sure. Like Lucha Libre in Mexico is like hockey here in Canada. If you're in a small town, you're not gonna get on the rink, and play shinny in Mexico because there's no ice. But they'll get on there and they'll roll around and do lucha stuff. So they're just better than us. And I was really lucky to have that opportunity when I did. So that's what I struggled with, was like just the physicality of it. I was getting hurt a lot because I've always been very reckless with my body, but sometimes like stupidly reckless. And now, even when I meet a lot of these younger, newer people that are coming up and doing really well, I tell them, man, you got one set of knees, you got to take care of those. You got one set of shoulders, you got to take care of those. So I definitely have a bit of a mother hen sort of worry ward vibe, I think, with a lot of the newer talent that's out there, but like in terms of like just having a passion for wrestling, that's where I excelled. That's the thing that overcame the physicality side of it. I just had such a drive for it. I was a student of the game. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I was always watching, always paying attention, always analyzing, deconstructing everything and trying to put it back together again. That's where I feel my strength was.
So how old were you then when you transitioned from wrestling in Ontario, then going down to Mexico to wrestle and train there?
Oh shit. So I'm going to say I was probably like 22 or 21 or 22, I think. And cause I started in my early 20s and I had only taken bumps and been in the ring in Canada for maybe a few months, like 3, 4, 5 months, maybe, before I went to Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Like the trainers here, they were like, you can't do this. You should just give up. And by the way, at the time, like, it was a tough love training thing. It's not like the kind of snowflakey training we have today. Like, oh, please show up. Okay, everyone have fun. Be nice to each other. No, they were trying to hurt you. They're trying to get you out of the ring because it was a very protective thing. They didn't want to share all the wrestling secrets with people. It was called PTA, pain, torture, and agony, to try to get you out of there. And if you kept showing up, you were either worth putting that effort into, or you were just so stupid and crazy that they'd literally move the building. They'd go find a new address to get rid of you.
Oh, I love how you come in with that perspective as well, right? Because like you said, these days training is kind of really brought on with a different mentality and the way that they're trying to bring people into the world of wrestling. But like you said, it used to really be, and for a lack of a better term, very much an old boys club. You know what I mean? Like, if it was hard to get in, if you were in, you earned it, or you knew somebody really high up, or you know what I mean? But
Yes.
But I really love that it's more accessible these days, because I think it really opens the doors to so many people. Information is so accessible these days. Wrestling is a lot more than just what you see in the ring these days.
I 100% agree, especially being a guy who didn't get it, who should have quit, who was told to quit, who was told to get out all the time. I always had a policy when I was training people. My policy was to give, as long as you weren't a danger to yourself or others, no matter how many people said you couldn't do it, we'd always say, here you go. And we were good teachers, where like we worked our asses off to help you develop, help you build skills, no matter where you were at. So like I remember when I went to university, like the frosh, kind of week thing, and the dean gets everyone in the auditorium and does this speech for all the new people in university. And the dean said, it's York University. And he goes, take a look at the person left you. Take a look at the person to the right of you. When you graduate, one of those people won't be here. And then later on, in like the kind of guidance counselor session I had, I said they're like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel you have what it takes to graduate university? And I feel you guys should hire better teachers. I go, I'm just saying, like, if a third or more of your students fail, that's not the students' fault. That's your fault for teaching a terrible curriculum or just not being good at teaching. So we would always, really try our best to make sure that if someone wanted to step a foot in that ring and they had a passion for it, even if they were limited, like the way I was, or something like that we would help them work with them and at least give them the opportunity to, a lot of trainers would just tell them to get it or wouldn't give them the shot. We would let that opportunity live and die with them.
That's really. Would you like to give any shout outs to some Vancouver promotion or like Vancouver training centers or anything right now that you think do a great job when it comes for people wanting to break into this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will tell you that Randy the Rocket Tyler, who's here way before my time, he's one of my favorite people in the world. He's a tremendous worker, and he's had a hand in training some of the best wrestlers to come out of BC that I've known. You can't take away from guys like gorgeous Michelle Starr, who, and Disco Fury, who not only helped train people, but also, built a lot of promotions here that people still wrestle in today in their different, ownerships and stuff. And locally now, the training camp available to people is a dojo called Lionsgate Dojo. It is run by Nicole Matthews, who is very, very popular, incredible technical wrestler, one of the hardest kicking people you will ever come across in your life. Artemis Spencer, who's just an absolute triple threat of a wrestler. He's big, he's strong, he's technical, he high flies, he's got everything going for him. And the personality from that dojo, I think, comes from Tony Baroni. And I say personality, I don't mean a good one. No, I'm just joking. He's phenomenal. Tony Baroni, he's someone who I consider an absolute linchpin of pro wrestling in this entire province. He's got his hand in everything, and rightfully so. He's got a beautiful wrestling IQ, churning out some great talent. And then there are other trainers there as well, Billy Swade, Cat Power. I don't know if I missed anybody, but they're all people I really like. And I feel anybody who wants to get into wrestling here is in the best of hands with them. It's a phenomenal place to enter into this business.
So you're definitely the person that's like absolutely the best to be answering this. Like, because I can ask a question and you'll have an answer and you'll have specifics and you'll be able to explain your answer. So I absolutely love that. Absolute great knowledge there that we're getting out of the Vancouver scene.
Flattery will get you everywhere, my friend.
Well, I can lay it on thick. I have a huge butter knife, so don't you worry.
Good.
Now, so let's talk a little bit more. You've moved down to Mexico now. You're training. So obviously you do wear a lucha mask. I assume like you pay obviously a lot of homage to your training. I assume in Mexico then, like where you really learned how to be a wrestler.
Absolutely. There's like a whole history behind like wearing a mask. It's a great story about how the first lucha mask ever happened. It was sort of like an accidental kind of thing that happened. And the tradition behind it has just grown and grown and grown. Generational wrestlers, second generation, third generation, fourth generation wrestlers representing their families' masks and stuff. And that's why I'll plug something quickly here. The Lucha Libre Spectacular Cuatro. The videos are here in hand. They will be posted up on Title Match Network shortly. It's a collaboration between WrestleCore and Title Match Network with their 2.2 million subscribers on YouTube. We cannot bring everyone from Vancouver to Mexico City, but we can sure bring a lot of Mexico City up here to Vancouver. And the tradition behind proper Lucha Libre, that authentic, is crucial to us. Nothing bothers me more than seeing a couple of local gringos throwing on some mask they bought on Amazon or in a flea market somewhere, pretending to be somebody they don't even know what they're representing. It's like, it's not blackface, but it's like outside the ballpark of blackface, but like in the parking lot of blackface, if that makes sense.
Slight cultural appropriation.
Yeah. The good news is there's not a single Mexican in the world that would care. So if there's like a Mexican luchador and you're wearing like his mask that was like his father's or grandfather's mask or something, he probably wouldn't be thrilled about it. But as far as my experience has been with any Mexicans, no matter where they're from in Mexico, if they see a white guy wearing a sombrero or something, like, yeah, good. If they see a Palestinian guy drinking a Corona or cerveza, they're like, oh, good. Like they like sharing their culture. They don't consider it cultural appropriation. But then again, it's sort of like, if I dressed up as Hulk Hogan and called myself Hulk Hogan, and not trying to be satirical about it, saying, oh, this is really me, I'm really Hulk Hogan. It's kind of, it's probably not a great thing.
Oh, well, how did you then go to earn your mask then? Like, was it like gifted upon you through training or?
Okay, so here's the thing. Okay, so my secret identity, my Muggle identity. There is nothing intimidating about it. You know, I'm an average white male, ages 18 to 45, with brown hair and brown eyes. I'm this tall, you know. So when I was training, you know, most people when they begin wrestling, like they already have a character who they think they want to be already, you know. I did not. I was in love with the technical aspect of wrestling, wrist locks, chain wrestling, and I was in love with like. And as I got better at it, I became more in love with the acrobatics of it. You know, the suicide dives, the moonsaults, and stuff. But at no point did I have any shred of personality or character about me. And the trainers there, Tony Salazar and a few of the others, were like, "Hey, you know, we want you to have a match. You know, we're not going to put you in like the big arena. We're going to put you in a couple little crappy indie shows out of town." And so I was like, "Okay," I was really happy for the opportunity. And they said, "But you need something. You can't go out there looking like this." And I'd spitballed a lot of different kind of rip-off character ideas, which is sort of my specialty. You know, at one point I was going to be, overnight Jones, delivering the package overnight. Like Jones kind of. And then me and a guy that I was training with, really good dude, doesn't wrestle anymore as far as I know, named Otis, and I were sitting around watching TBS, and this Karate Kid marathon came on. The old Ralph Macchio.
Great series.
And this is like, it had been long enough since the Karate Kid movies were out. Nobody really remembered it. It wasn't like top of mind pop culture wise. It was a decade before the Netflix series came out. And he turns to me and goes, "Kobra Kai." What? Cobra Kai. And for trademark purposes, we changed the Kai, the Cobra, the K, the C in Cobra to a K. And I told Tony about it, and he goes, "Cobra Canadianese," the Canadian Cobra. He really wanted me to work that Canadian angle. They sent me down, had gear made for me. It was white and red, and they introduced me as the Canadian Cobra, Cobra Canadianese. And that's how I did my first few matches in Mexico.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so that's how that happened. And that gear, that Mexican wrestling gear that was made in Mexico, holds up. Like I'd get like 250 or more matches out of that gear before it fell apart on me. I still have my very first Canadian Cobra mask. It's shredded to hell, but I still have it.
Oh, I love to hear those kind of things. I love when you have to keep those kind of like keepsakes and stuff. And it was really funny because earlier on you're like, I really like karate movies and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, that must have been where Cobra Kai came from specifically. But you're like, no, I was just watching TV with my friend. TBS was on and that specifically was there.
Well, I was this close to being Destro, which is like a silver mask. But the funny thing is, it was so out of that kind of pop culture zeitgeist when I started doing Cobra Kai that when I'd be at a show and I go, "Cobra!" and the crowd would yell, "Yo, Joe." They would never put two and two together. It wasn't until like literally maybe 6 or 7 years into wrestling that somebody yelled, "Sweep the leg," and that was like legit one of my finishers. There was just some guy in the audience, "Sweep the leg," and that was actually one of my finishing moves called "Sweep the Leg Johnny," and it's like an STO, like a spinning STO.
I love it. Is there other ones that you take like kind of like your finishers or your signature moves from, like in terms of like the names or anything like that out of the movie?
Yeah, no, not out of the movie. No, my kind of rip-off move names are a scattered assortment of different, pop culture references that I've enjoyed over the years. I got like the kamikaze kick, and so that's more of an homage to drinking and alcohol than I think the movies. But a lot of like rap lyric-based moves.
Fair enough.
Things like that. Yeah.
Well, okay, I got a quick question for you. Now, you say you grew up loving karate movies, and I have to know, because I mean, The Karate Kid, absolutely fantastic piece of cinema, but in terms of karate movie, like, I personally think, and I would love your opinion, Legend of the Drunken Master is by far the best karate movie.
Oh yeah, so I'm old, so like when I saw that, I didn't see that when it originally came out. I saw it like as the North American version,
right? I am referring to original, badly lip synced Chinese version.
Yeah. No, I wish I was that cool. I didn't find out about like even the Shaw Brothers until a guy named Tornado, Mark Bartolucci, introduced me to the Shaw Brother movies. Probably like 3 or 4 years into my wrestling journey, and he's an awesome guy. He's based out of Sudbury, Ontario. And one of the best wrestlers you'll ever meet in your life, can do everything. But I was like in the Chuck Norris movies, Bruce Lee movies, of course. Enter the Dragon was just like I had the poster. I have nunchucks downstairs. I can go grab them if you want, spin them around. But weirdly, one of my favorite movies is such a bad movie. It was called The Last Dragon, and it was like this kind of blaxploitation karate movie, and it was like the baby face of his name was Bruce Leroy.
I haven't seen this, but this sounds hilarious.
If you Google The Last Dragon and you see Bruce Leroy, he catches a bullet in his teeth. And I remember watching this as a kid. Going, oh my god, he got a bullet in his teeth. I didn't know special effects were a thing. I just thought like he literally like manifested the spirit of Bruce Lee and became The Last Dragon. But and at no point did I realize it was like exploitive of black people or anything like that. I just thought it was the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life. The heel in it was a guy Shogun. He was just this badass dude that honestly, a lot of my in-ring stuff, I try to emulate Shogun from that movie.
It's so interesting where people will get inspiration from for their characters and everything. But like the world has so much in deep pockets that you can pull anything from. Like that's what I love about wrestling. You're not just expected to be one type of person or to wrestle one style of wrestling. You could literally come in as a comedy act. You could come in as a high flyer. You could come in as a big man. You could literally just come in as a person. And no matter what, you could do something in wrestling.
And much like a chef may experiment with different cuisine styles and stuff, I'd say over my wrestling career, when I first started as a very authentic lucha libre, lots of arm drags and big moves and stuff, and then weirdly I found myself in this like hardcore phase for a few years. I was wrestling a lot for IWA and for Huck and Dearborn, Michigan and stuff. There's me name dropping. There were people on the shows like Colt Cabana, CM Punk and stuff, and a handful of other really famous guys wrestling the same indie locker room that I was. I did a lot of hardcore for a while. Big tag team fan. Oh, did I freeze on you?
No, I can see you just fine.
Oh, okay. My little preview screen froze. And so different phases all the time. And I would say I do comedy as Kobra Kai, but I definitely have a lot of cheeky moments in my matches. I do like to kind of mess with the narrative, like the diegetic mode of a story in a wrestling ring, call it pattern disrupt. And I think, a lot of before, like I went through a lot of evolutions, and I've wrestled as a lot of different people other than Kobra Kai. I've done like 90% of my matches as Kobra Kai, but I've had a lot of different personas out there, and I think a lot of wrestlers now missed that. They start training, they're in love with some character, and they just stick to that one persona and that one style. And they never get a chance to branch out. And even if it's not for you, I think that experimentation is crucial to your success. And I can't think of a single money pro wrestler, who's a main event person that started as the same person they're main eventing as today.
Well, like you would say, people grow, they change, they get better, they become different aspects of themselves, like improve and all that kind of stuff. It's really hard. Like, what's the word I want to say? There's this
Worcestershire.
Well, that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, Worcestershire. No, there's this paradox. It used to be from like this game where you're like, well, you have 3 doors. You have your first, and you could choose any door that you want. Behind it, there's like one is a good thing, one is empty, and one's like a bad thing. And so what they say is like you have a choice. You can make your choice, and you choose one door, and then they'll show you another door. They'll open up another door that has nothing in it, and they'll say, "Would you like to change your choice?" Like 90% of people will be like, "No, I'll just stay with my choice." But statistically, the better choice is to change your answer because you have a better statistic. Because time has gone past, things have changed, things grow. It's always better to try to re-examine your surroundings and change things if you can, because you can grow so much more from that.
And this weirdly, I'm going to use this as a segue to talk a little bit about WrestleCore.
Please.
So with the world of pro wrestling and stuff, I've been around, here and there a bit, and I've had the opportunity to see a lot of different people interpret, what they consider wrestling in their own way, in their own shows. And one thing that really resounded with me, there's a significant lack of development and innovation. There's a lot of chasing. Like people would chase what WWE was doing and do like this kind of, low budget indie version of it, or they'd chase what TNA was doing, Impact, whatever it was doing at the time. And that was already a low budget version of what they were chasing, and so on and so on and so forth. So there's very little innovation for a very, very long time. And then all of a sudden this golden era started to occur, really recaptured my interest in wrestling. I'll put over like Hood Slam in Oakland. Was one of those things. So I love comic books and cartoons and stuff, and they have this kind of evil cartoony element to it that I really liked. And then there's Freak Show Wrestling that Sin Bodhi, my brother, put on in Las Vegas. Had this kind of like just unreal element to it. Like, where do you come up with these ideas? And even here in Vancouver, one of my favorite shows, best night of your life you'll ever have, is a show run by Melody Mangler and Norm Elmore called Glam Slam, and it's this sort of like interdimensional fantasy show. And the thing that all these shows had in common wasn't that they were so ridiculous, that they were trying to be something new. They weren't trying to chase, WWE or whatever. And because of that, people really got a chance to kind of, recreate the scene. And, I remember being told by veteran wrestlers, oh, you can't do that in your match. You can't do this. You can't do that. And then we would purposely go out of our way to go do it at these shows just to prove them wrong, or not even prove them wrong, just to prove that there is no right or wrong. It's good is good, bad is bad. It's as simple as that.
I will want to just put over Glam Slam quickly, because when I did meet you in Vancouver, Norm was there and you introduced me to him, and you specifically said he has a product that I enjoy better than my own product, which is something very similar to that.
Norm and Melody Mangler are the co-producers of that show, and when you run your own show, it's a million fires you're putting out and stuff like that, and maybe you don't get the chance to enjoy it the same way as watching someone else's show. But I tell you, whether I'm involved on the wrestling coordination side or as a performer or just as an audience member, I have an absolute blast at every Glam Slam. It's like Vancouver's best kept secret. It's always sold out. It's like, if you know, to get in, there's like a secret knock on the door kind of thing. And like, learn that secret knock if you get that opportunity to go.
Well, I will put over quickly. I know that you guys have a show this Saturday, and Glam Slam has a show this Saturday night, because that's how. Absolutely. Would you like to kind of put over your show? I know you have a free show going on this Saturday, like a little bit of a miniature show. What's going on exactly?
Yeah, so a good friend of mine named Dan, he runs a store called Rockin' Cowboy, and it's just like the coolest clothing and stuff. He's one of the coolest dudes you ever met. He's also like a jiu-jitsu guy who kicks ass. He's a legit killer. And he works with International Motorsports, this massive bike dealership. Cool bikes too, like moto lifestyle bikes. And so a year or two ago, he says, hey, Bubba, can you put on a wrestling show for me? And I had never, I was like, I don't know, like, what can we do here? It's like outdoors and stuff. It's really dangerous. I'm in a parking lot. I love danger. There's like a danger element to everything we do. We had this one kid jump off of a shipping container into the ring. It was awesome.
I came up the wrong weekend, as I've said before. You know what I mean? I got to go out to these shows, man.
Yeah, and well, the funny thing is kind of like last minute, El Phantasmo showed up and did our main event for that show, and it was funny because as we're kind of getting closer to bell time, there's like bands and beer and vendors, and it's a really cool kind of festival-y vibe, right? And as they were getting closer to bell time, the first match starting, it's empty. It was dead. Like there was like maybe like 40 people there. We're like, oh shit, this is gonna suck. I go backstage, say, okay, guys, we're going on bell time's 10 minutes. And they're like, oh God, okay. And I come back outside, it could have been 2 minutes, and the 40 or 50 people was 150 people. Like, hey, shit, it's starting to fill up. Like, this is okay. This might not be that bad. I go, hey guys, 5 minutes bell time. I come back out. 10 seconds later, 300 people there. By time that main event hit, and the referee rode a bike to the ring, by the way, like the Undertaker coming down the ramp in the last ride days. It was absolutely
ref.
Yeah, and and El Phantasmo and Adam Ryder and Ladies' Choice and stuff got in there and just had a phenomenal match, and the people were just eating it up, and they've been dying to have us do it again. So this Backlot Burnout 2 is coming September 10th. Absolutely free show. Come watch some bands. Come see some fun. You never know what's going to happen in the wrestling ring. The only thing we've really announced is there will be a ladies tag team match. The Space Cowgirls of everyone's favorite Numi, the Irish Peach, and everyone's favorite MILF, Calamity Kate, versus the legacy wrestlers, the Hall sisters, Liza and Bambi Hall. The only other match that we've officially announced is a fans bring the weapons match between the dangerous Miles DeVille and the High to Heartthrob Adam Ryder, who is again blowing up. They're both blowing up in their own right. Couldn't be happier to be a part of their journey.
Oh, I've absolutely loved it. I got to see Miles at the NEW show, and then the next week he was at the LPW show, obviously as a part of State of Emergency. And yes. Adam Ryder, same thing, NEW, then was over at the LPW show doing fantastic work. I just want to put over quickly as like legitimately one of the most impressive moves that I've seen in wrestling in a long time, and I don't even know what it's called, is when Adam jumps from out of the ring through like that second rope and goes straight into that cutter in the span of like a half a second. It just blows my mind every time I see it.
I had the chance to kind of do a small program at All Star Wrestling against Adam Ryder, and that was a few years ago. And seeing him develop and grow and get better and better and strong and blowing up, like he's wrestling in Defy and SOS, and he was in Toronto and LPW. I love pro wrestling, which I love, no pun intended. Seeing him blow up this way just impresses me through and through, and I love it. Like that's the thing that gets me excited and makes me want to just keep building cool shit.
Well, I'm not going to ask for too many spoilers. You're obviously a promoter, and you're going to have to keep your secrets and everything like that. But what can we look forward to in WrestleCore coming up here? Obviously, you're going to have some shows. I unfortunately missed the last one. After hearing how it went down for that 2-day event, I'm kicking myself specifically because I wasn't there. But like, what can people expect out of WrestleCore?
Oh man, so many things. So I'm gonna take my time to answer this.
Please do.
First thing, keep your eye on the Infinity Championship. Very, very closely keep your eye on the wildest monster of a title belt that ever exists.
Beautiful belt, absolutely beautiful belt.
Absolutely, I got to tell you, Michael Richard Blaze carrying that belt around. I mean, him and the Clandestine Society have just been such show stealers from day one. I mean, they're all amazing. Stephen Crow, Taryn from accounting, put in that. Him walking around with that title is dangerous. I'll say that. So keep your eye on that. That's something of massive interest. Lucha Libre Spectacular Cuatro will be posted up online on the Title Match Network and collaboratively on YouTube with Title Match Network. 2.2 million subscribers. This does officially make us the largest, most broadest reached indie wrestling company in Canada by far. It's not even close. And I couldn't be happier with that relationship and how well that's going, as well as things like the pro wrestling world has been so supportive as well, giving us that reach. And that's really why we did WrestleCore, was to give these wrestlers a platform that they deserve to be seen on. And always happy to work with new people and be a part of that kind of step for them, for sure. Having said that, we're keeping 2023 somewhat of a secret right now, but our season closer for 2022 is not part of the regular WrestleCore canon. It is very much an Elseworld alternate reality wrestling show called The Horror on Hastings. It is a horror movie themed wrestling show, and you will see your favorite wrestling heroes and the most reviled wrestling villains completely transform into your worst nightmares. The only thing I can tell you, if you've ever been to a Horror on Hastings show, you can't talk about it afterwards. You're just so upset when you leave there. It's just, your soul is just eaten up and spit out and chewed out. Something wildly cathartic about it. But you're going to see some wild stuff there. You will see Michael Richard Blaze defending the Infinity title, the Dark Universe X version of Michael Richard Blaze defending the Infinity title. As well, we've got some pretty exciting headliners coming in for this show. We will be featuring a Friday the 13th Jason Voorhees Battle Royal. You want to know what that means? You're going to have to be at the show. We're also flying in probably we're kind of known for bringing in incredible talent. I'm very excited to bring this person in. I've personally wrestled this person a half dozen times all across North America. I've wrestled them in Indiana, I've wrestled them in Ohio, I've wrestled them in Florida, I've wrestled them in Canada. We are flying in for the very first time ever in Vancouver, for the very first time ever in the Rickshaw Theater, the Invisible Man.
Oh my God, really? Invisible Man of Invisible Stan fame of wrestling. What was that promotion? Was it Chikara?
Well, I've wrestled for Mike Quackbush many, many times in Chikara. Yes,
That's amazing to bring in the Invisible Man first up, one like this. I don't even know how you quite get in contact with someone like that, but I have to admit,
it's all about, you gotta have that handle, and they check their DMs when they see Fight Kobra Kai sends them that message.
I did, for sure. I was super excited whenever I get that message. You're like, oh, I got Cobra's message. I gotta send him a message. But
I'm a big deal. I'm Calamity Kate's husband.
There you go. Right? And I mean, I don't know how much canon there is in the world, but it has already been broken online. Also, then in regards, Step Brothers to One, Taryn from accounting, because that has already been on the internet.
my beautiful, I keep using the word danger, and I talk about danger in a second, but I'll say my wife is one of the most dangerous human beings on the planet. She is so dangerous. She will get you. She's an award-winning filmmaker. She's the most beautiful, talented, challenging person I've ever met in my life. And she just, to be perfectly clear, she's a co-producer of these shows. There would be no WrestleCore without her encouragement and contribution. There's a lot of people out there that have helped a little bit, but 100% Calamity Kate. Any wrestlers out there that want to be gracious to somebody, be gracious to Calamity Kate for these shows. And it's funny because Taryn was actually a lifelong wrestling fan, long before her sister, long before Kate was a wrestling fan or even knew what really wrestling was. And to see Taryn from accounting come up and again just blowing up, she's so talented. She's got every raw tool out there. It's such a wicked high wrestling IQ. So it feels really cool to be in this family. You know, I got the showgirl, Calamity Kate, everyone's favorite MILF. You know, we got Taryn from accounting. The only three things in life that are certain: death, taxes, and Taryn from accounting. And you got Sim Bodie on the other side there. You know, and a lot of super close friends that I consider family. You know.
I love all of this. Like, you keep it very personal for you, right? Because it's just like, it's not just something that you're into. It's something that your family is into, and all in their own ways as well, right? It's not like Taryn is hanging out in Vancouver. She's here in Alberta making a name for herself, or wherever she gets flown in and out of recently, because she's everywhere.
Absolutely. You know, and you know, she's from accounting, so she can write off those flights.
Absolutely.
On those.
One time I had to come up with another way to describe her because I was like, she's already an accountant, so I nicknamed her the actuary of the clandestine society. So apparently she also does a little bit in taxes or I've already completely messed up the word insurance. That's the word, insurance and stuff.
Yeah.
But already we want to switch over to the Q&A section here. There's already been a lot of questions. People are here. They're asking questions. I want to get to their questions. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
So if one of my mods can go ahead, well, it's probably Shout. We all know it's Shout. If Shout can go ahead and send me a bunch of these questions, we will start.
Yeah, nothing's off limits, by the way. I'm pretty open to talk about anything.
Oh, absolutely. There's probably going to be a bunch of questions. Of course, we always going to start with something like this. This question gets asked to everybody. So,
Clean Puff, question me, please.
As a veteran wrestler and promoter, what are your thoughts on the all-time classic movie Ready to Rumble starring Sting?
Dude, okay, so it's funny. Someone called me a veteran. I'm old, but I would consider myself a veteran. There's people on TV who got 100 times more experience than I'll ever have. I love Ready to Rumble, and as a matter of fact, I call it a Jimmy King moment. Do you remember Scott Conn and David Arquette there, and Oliver Platt is like crowning everybody?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And David Arquette, he goes, now me, do me. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a show called The Circus of Death, and the premise of the show was that these wrestlers travel from town to town looking for work, and this van of local wrestlers breaks down. They go wandering for help, and they wander into the Circus of Death, where they have to fight for their lives against all these like circus freak wrestling performers. And in our main event, Adam Ryder, one of our normal Scooby-Doo-esque pro wrestlers that had broken down, had to fight his way through the Shocker from Las Vegas just to get his way to the ringmaster Zicky Dice, who was in town for that show. And at one point, they had kind of hypnotized each other, and Zicky Dice was just choke slamming everybody that came into the ring. You can choke slam the ref, he choke slammed, the security guards, and I had this now me, Jimmy King, crown me, moment. And I ran into the ring, and he just looks at me, he's in his eyes, and he's like, oh shit, I don't want to do this to the promoter. And then I was like, do me, and he choke slammed me, and I had so much fun. And that was like a little tip of the hat to that movie for sure. Because that was not planned. I was not supposed to take a choke slam at all in that match, and it was pretty funny.
Well, the fact that you were just going up there and quoting Ready to Rumble during one of your own shows already tells me enough of the fact that you're clearly a fan of that, what I will call brilliant movie. I will say this, because I grew up as a WWF kid. I was just team WWF. So whenever something WCW came around, I was always like, yeah, but WWF is better. I was in love with that movie as a kid. I didn't care that it was WCW. I would watch it over and over and over again because Absolutely. It was perfect.
Well, it's funny, I like sports movies more than I like sports. So I don't watch a lot of football. I love Varsity Blues. I don't watch a lot of baseball. I love Major League. You know what I mean? Well, don't watch a hockey, but I love Slapshot. So, liking wrestling, then a great movie like Ready to Rumble. This is a fun, guilty pleasure movie. I probably rewatched that movie a half dozen times, and I enjoy it every single time.
Oh, you know what's really funny? I actually had that on last night. I was getting ready to go to bed. I'm like, I just need something on while I was cooking dinner after work because it was really late and I was really hungry. So I just put Ready to Rumble on the TV, and I was just like, oh, it's just so perfect.
Great go-to. Put like that on is a great go-to. Fight Club, anything from the 80s, really. Like, I love it all. Adventures of Babysitting, whatever.
Ghostbusters is like the one, like my quintessential go back to movie. I can quote like that movie verbatim. But we all got our 80s love. You got your Karate Kid clearly, but I feel like as much as you like Karate Kid, I feel like you're like, there's much better movies from the 80s. It's a great movie. Don't get me wrong, but there's
perfectly honest, I actually am not a big fan of Karate Kid. I like a couple of scenes from it, like the Halloween party beat up scene I like that scene, but overall, I'm not a big fan of the movie. I just like the name Cobra Kai.
Fair enough. You know what? I actually am the weird guy who actually like Karate Kid 2 more when he goes to Japan and he has to fight that kid and they're doing like the dance and stuff. Like I really love that one.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
All right, next question here. You said that wrestlers need to be hybrid wrestlers to succeed today. Which wrestler in Western Canada do you think best exemplifies that mindset?
Oh boy. Like you mean like independent or like kind of
someone in Western Canada, someone who I suppose like isn't really. Yeah, I'm gonna say independent.
So, oh man, there's just so many people. I mean, I have to tip my hat to Artemis Spencer. I mean, everyone knows the guy's just, he's like I said, he's a triple threat of wrestling. He does it all. He's technical. He's hard hitting. He's high flying. He's got it all. You can see Miles DeVille coming up with that exact same sort of mentality. Adam Ryder, of course, I can't sing his praises enough. He's the human highlight reel with sex appeal. He can hit hard. He knows his moves. He can fly. He does a top rope frog splash, like not jumping from the top rope to somebody in the mat. He puts someone on the top rope and then jumps high and then comes crashing down on the guy. Yeah, he can do it all. He's incredible. So I'm going to put those guys over. But I switch gears and so kind of go across the country. Every town has some incredible talent. As soon as I get out your way into Alberta, if I don't say MRB, I'm an idiot. He can do it all. He is one of the best storytellers. He's got such an amazing mind. Sometimes we'll have a conversation and I just want to hear him talk. I just talk. I don't care what you say. I just want to hear words come out of your mouth because it's all gold. He can do everything and nothing. If I go a little south of the border, guys like Cody Chun, Cody Chun, he can do everything, but he's classic in all his moves. And I've never seen a wrestler do something as simple as a tackle like the way Cody Chun does and make me like jump out of my seat. Oh my God. It's
just so smooth. Like you're just like, they've done it a million times, even if they haven't, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. It's just so it suspends my disbelief so much that it literally gets me excited. I feel like a kid watching those matches. Judas Icarus and Cody Chun had this phenomenal match. I felt like a kid watching wrestling for the first time again. It was so damn good.
Oh, I love all of those answers. And you're right. Like MRB, definitely one of the ones here in Alberta that you would be like stupid not to just be like, he's clearly got everything that he needs. We all love watching. I've sung his praise so many times on this podcast for years at this point.
Funny enough, there's like a phrase called a comedian's comedian, where like there's like a comedian that all the other comedians love and stuff like that, but doesn't really quite get as popular with the general audience, And I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's MRB at all, but I'll say this, that as much as the fans just like cannot take their eyes off of him when he's in that ring or on that microphone or in that vignette or in that promo, they will never truly appreciate what he does as much as somebody who's been in that ring 1,000 times.
Oh, and he makes it look so smooth. Like I've always said, like he can put on a great match with literally anybody, no matter how new they are too, because he wrestles to their level. He will tell their stories. If they can't go like super fast, he will wrestle any style that he needs to make sure that person that he's wrestling against looks good, no matter what it is. So I always love that about MRB. And there's definitely some incredible storytellers here in Alberta. Next time that you're back out again, we'll take you to shows. We'll have some good times. I'll point out all the ones that I'm like, oh, this one, take a look at this person.
Yeah, you've actually pointed out a few people, we were talking before this and stuff, and it's funny because, I don't get a chance to go see them live and stuff, and that globalization of the world, the internet makes accessibility to a lot of these performers much better for a promoter like me. Having said that, I don't want to sit through someone's like 20-minute indie match, where they're clapping for the first 10 minutes and stuff like that. Send me a highlight reel. Make it entertaining for me, if you're going to send me something.
There you go. Hints and tips to everybody, all the wrestlers listening. If you just heard that, 60 seconds goes a long way, more than a 10-minute thing. Just give them a good 60-second show off what you can do. Let's do this.
10 seconds will buy you 60 of my time.
There you go.
60 good seconds. If you win me over that, you get 5 minutes of my attention. That 5 minutes will earn you hours.
Perfect. Yeah. Show them a spot, show them a clip, tell them your story. There you go. That's the 3 right there.
Yes, sir.
I like that. All right. Here's one that is kind of fun because I brought it up to the different people who have come out of the Vancouver scene. I claim that Uncle Fatty's is the best pizza in Vancouver, though I had it when I was in Vancouver recently, and it did not live up to what I remembered it being 10 years ago. But Tony Brony claims that Uncle Fatty's helped him quit smoking. Adam Ryder swears by Pizza Garden. What is your favorite pizza in Vancouver?
I think the reason Uncle Fatty's helped Tony Brony quit smoking is because there's a ton of nicotine in that pizza dough. It's the only reason why people buy it, because it's just awful. I mean, maybe you got lucky and got one good pizza there once, but not for me.
Years, I used to go there when I lived in Vancouver. Loved it
You got
all
like
the time.
Franchise owner that did well or something. I said overall, if you're one of those people who just really likes being disappointed, it's the best pizza for you. But if you want to be delightfully impressed with pizza, of course, Adam Ryder absolutely nailed it by saying Pizza Garden.
Yeah,
one of the best pizzas around you'll ever have. There are a handful of different places. I just had Hell Crust for the first time, and Kobra Kai stamp of approval. Hell Crust, way to go. But if you want to talk to a real pizza expert, you got to talk to Tom P. Tom P. and a wonderful man by the name of Kenny Lush had a wrestling promotion called Wise Pro Wrestling, and Tom P. is the connoisseur of pizza connoisseurs. I would seek his advice before my own.
I appreciate that. What about, and not just pizza then, like what is your spot that you're like, I'm hungry, I've got 3 hours and unlimited money, where am I eating dinner tonight? Like what are you doing in Vancouver? I legitimately am curious.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. I mean, I got a bit of a fine palate. I used to run a website called urbanspoon.com in a different life. It's kind of a nice little clout there. Boom, boom, boom.
You used to run Urban Spoon?
For Canada and the East Coast and the U.S., yes, sir. And
I definitely know
the most romantic part of my professional career, just going to 5-star restaurants and eating with Mario Batali and Claudio Aprile and a bunch of other kind of Food Network chefs. So we'll go to the Victor at the top of the Pack Center, stuff like that, for a nice dinner once in a while. Great food. But also, nothing makes me happier than driving through Kelowna and getting 5 roast beef sandwiches for $5 from Arby's and just filling my muck on and getting that done. That's a delicious little treat.
I'm with you on Arby's. A lot of people these days, they're like, oh, Arby's. I'm like, no, classic roast beef. You put some of that special sauce on there. You go and just unlimited of those. Just
I am also a purist. Traditional roast beef, a little bit of the Arby's sauce, and there you go.
I don't even need them loading it in cheese. You know what I mean? Like, I just want the bun and the meat and the sauce, and I'm good.
Indeed. Purist. I love it. I respect it. I'm samesies.
Well, here's my spot. I don't know if you've ever tried it. 10 years ago, I used to work in Yaletown, and there was this law office, and there was this little bistro cafe inside of it called Grounds for Appeal, and I used to love their butter chicken, and I want to go back. It's one of those things where it's like I'm curious how much my memory has been tampered over time of how good it really was.
From my time at Urban Spoon, I can tell you that Vancouver is one of the top 5 foodie cities in the world, in North America. It's like Vancouver, Toronto, New York, Chicago, San Diego. It is hard to find a bad meal in Vancouver. It's easy to find a bad meal around Vancouver, like if you're in New West or Surrey or Burnaby or whatever. But if you're in Vancouver, it's hard to find a bad meal. You got to work to find a bad place.
I was gonna say it was really easy to find bad places in Burnaby. I won't lie. Even on Kingsway, you know what I mean? I learned sushi on Kingsway. That was the first time I ever had sushi. I was eating it on Kingsway, and then I went back to that place a couple of years later, and it became trash after a while. I was like, oh, okay. So this is what I learned on.
It's definitely there's once you get out of the kind of the downtown core, I think it goes for any city. You're going to go to more of a fast food model, and there's going to be some quality sacrifices made.
No, fair enough. All right, next quick question here. If you could change one thing in independent wrestling, what would it be?
Danger. More danger. And I'll tell you. So I said I was going to talk about danger later. And this being later now. So yeah, things like WWE, they're not dangerous anymore. They're just these kind of 3-hour long fluffy toy commercials. Don't get me wrong. It's just the best wrestlers in the world are there. The best talent in the world is there, but the actual production itself, there's just nothing exciting about it anymore. Even when they do something big and crazy, it doesn't trigger that emotion the way it used to. And I think that, and I don't want people to actually be put in danger, but I want that audience, I want that suspension of disbelief from the audience. I want them to gasp. My favorite thing in the world to hear, when I'd be wrestling and performing, I'd always like fighting on the outside, fighting in the crowd, and whether my opponent would put me in a chair or sit me on top of some fan's lap or vice versa, and then we just hoof each other. It's a big, nice, open hand chop. And those chops are so loud, it sounded like a shotgun going off. Your ears would ring. And the thing I would love to hear the most is some fan in the audience go, holy shit, he's hitting that guy for real. And that's just the biggest smile on my face, because gravity is very real. The impact that we hit each other with is very real. And surprising that audience, and that's why a wrestling audience just loses their mind. You go to a Motley Crue concert, people may sing along and cheer at the end of a song, but they're not screaming their heads off for 3 hours straight. Wrestling guys screaming their heads off for 3 hours straight because they're so into it, because that it's dangerous. There's something visceral about it. That's what I feel is missing about wrestling. The people sitting on their hands, not making any noise, not getting swept away in it. I think it's way too common now. I want more electricity. I want more danger.
Now, I got to ask you then, because there's two different mindsets when it comes to this, especially in the independent wrestling world. Do you find then that alcohol will make people louder, but then it kind of eliminates the kids? Which do you feel puts more energy into a show? Some drunk guy or a kid?
Well, so I hopefully nobody gets like wasted or drunk at any show. The type of show that we put on, the WrestleCore puts on, is not a kid-friendly show. Like there's a significant amount of swearing and violence, and it's for a smarter audience, and no offense to kids, but like I have my beautiful baby boy downstairs. He's 8 months old, and when he's already been to a few wrestling shows, he doesn't know what's going on. And when I see little kids at a kid-friendly wrestling show, they don't know what's going on. They don't get it. So you really have to simplify your storytelling on a kid-friendly show. And there's a ton of value there. 100%. I love those shows when they're executed well. But our show is booked and executed by the performers for a smarter, savvier person. Someone who's not just looking at the pretty colors, someone who actually understands like the context of what's going on. So I don't encourage anybody to get like blackout drunk or high or whatever at any show. I think that's, not just disrespectful, but you gotta question your life choices if you can get that sloppy out in public, in front of people, right? Like learn how to hold your booze.
I've seen a couple of people at certain shows where I'm just like, buddy, you were done like 4 ago. Like, please go sit down.
I've been that guy, and like as an announcer in my own show, I've been that guy who's like had one too many. Like I'm not the Ricky Gervais of pro wrestling announcing because I'm funny or good at it. It's because like he drinks when he performs and sometimes has one too many. So like even like I don't really drink alcoholic beverages anymore when I'm announcing. I'll have a few, but I'm not going to have like 15 or something like that. So to answer your question, well, I'm taking a long time to answer this question. I think that whatever show you put on, be considerate of who your audience is. If you're wrestling in front of a fairground, audience with a bunch of little kids and stuff like that, give them a fairground show. If you're wrestling in like one of the top venues, in the city, one of the best clubs or, concert halls in the city, and it's 19 plus and people have a high expectation, deliver that high expectation. If you go out and wrestle the same match or book the same show for these completely different audiences, it's silly. It doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's like bringing a pair of board shorts on a snowboarding trip, bringing snow pants to the beach. Doesn't make any sense. You're unprepared.
They're both useful, but for the wrong situation in that case there, right?
Exactly.
All right, here's one that's a pretty fun one. Who is one wrestler that hasn't appeared for WrestleCore yet that you would love to have?
Actually, it's funny. Nation Extreme Wrestling just booked Rock and Ricky G, the Midnight Heat guys. I love them.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that. Oh man, that's a nice little get.
Yeah, dude, they're going to be on their September 16th 1-year anniversary show, and I've been wanting to work. I've wanted to work with them. I haven't actually reached out to them and stuff like that. I like all their stuff and online and whatever, but it's my own fault for just not moving faster on them. They're amazing. There's a ton of indie talent I'd love to work with, and they just simply haven't gotten around to, because you can only put so many people on a show. You can only have so many matches. The longest show we ever did was called Battle World '88. Started at 7 p.m. finished at like midnight. Oof. No, it started at 6 p.m. and finished at midnight. And the audience was up for the whole time. This is like pre-COVID,
right?
So the audience, stamina was a lot higher then. Now, now you barely make it through a 2-hour show. The audience.
Oh yeah, by 3 hours, people are dead. Like it feels like sometimes.
Well, I will put over, even on some long shows, the Lucha Libre events we have, like each day is like 13, 14 matches, and like gates open at 2 and the first bell's like 3 or whatever. It goes all the way through to the evening. The audience is up that whole time, and it's because of the phenomenal performers that bring them to life, and I put guys like Bestia 666 and Zicky Dice and Trey Miguel in these Channing Decker in these really bad spots where they're the main event of a show, and the audience just seeing everything, and they've blown their wad 100 times, and they're just their energy. Like, what more does this audience have left in them? Well, how much their voices are gone, and these guys deliver every time, and the audience is still on the edge of their seat. Adam Ryder, Michael Richard Blaze, they keep the audience screaming and pumped to the very millisecond that they're kicked out the door. It's incredible. Couldn't be happier with these guys.
I have to make another trip out to Vancouver. It's as simple as that. Like, I gotta come out. I gotta go to these shows. I gotta experience it, and I always love the 19+ shows, like you said, right? Like, because that is more my audience, my style. I do like the like being around like the adults, but like you said, I don't really like really wasted people, because that's just completely ridiculous. Especially,
yeah. I mean, any venue that lets people get like that smashed, usually security would get them out of there, so they're not like an issue. In the last 28-ish shows we've done, and we've had like maybe 1 or 2 incidents, and nobody even noticed because security did their job, because they're good at doing that. They're good at dealing with drunk people. They're security.
Perfect. All right, here's a fun one. What is the strangest weapon that you've ever seen someone bring to a fans bring the weapons match?
Ooh, I mean, I've seen some weapons that were just terrifying. The one that I was personally involved in was a fans bring the weapon match, IWA for Huck in Dearborn, Michigan, and some smartass brought a shopping cart. And I remember we were all kind of laughing at it and stuff. And there was a wrestler there by the name of Homeless Jimmy. He's like, "Oh, I'll be shop cart before." I'm like, what? He was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, how? Because this is like the era of like Jackass. You remember the TV show?
Oh,
Jackass?
Absolutely.
Each other like can't kill yourself. They put each other in the shopping carts, and they'd run into like a curb, and they go flying.
Yep.
The whole idea of like that sharp metal, just thinking about it makes me cringe. And I thought, okay, I got to do this hardcore match. There's a baseball bat with a nail in it. There's like light tubes. I won't go near light tubes anymore after some incidents. And there's thumbtacks. Fine, whatever. Thumbtacks, chains, this kind of stuff. But there were some fun things that people brought. Instead of bringing like a cookie tray, that brought the little paper muffin holders.
Little holders, eh?
Which like scored out, like if you squeeze them, they scored out like a kind of a deck of playing cards and stuff. So that was kind of like fun little stuff like that. Anyone who brings Lego is just a complete psychopath.
Worst thing to step on.
Yeah, so I thought I was really clever with the shopping cart. I thought, okay, it's not gonna be that bad if I lay it on its side and I kind of just take a bump on it. It won't be that bad. Something easy, like a clothesline or a drop kick, to do it myself, not a big deal. And what wound up happening is in this mask, I don't know if you can see, this thing's got like kind of blinders on it. Mm-hmm. So I could see this.
Right.
I don't see anything in my peripheral. And what happened was, I'm getting ready to take this clothesline on top of a shopping cart, which was laying on its side, so the flat-ish side was down. Well, the referee thought that they were doing me a favor and moved the shopping cart out of the way. And when they moved it, they flipped it over on its top, so the wheels were pointing up. And it was also out of position of where that bump was coming from. So as I'm getting thrown backwards, and I just kind of look back, if I just look back, I should be able to sort of see where it is and line it up, and I just didn't see it. I was over on this side, and I just got, the one wheel that never turns right in a shopping cart? I got that wheel right in the middle of my back.
Oh.
Bump. I couldn't breathe properly for a month after that. So from now on, referees, if I lay a freaking shopping cart in the ring, just leave that shopping cart where it is.
That's part of a bump. It's really funny because one time, and I used to work in large format printing, so like one of my favorite things I would do is I would take like a cutout of like one of my favorite wrestlers' heads and stuff, and I would stick it on some coroplast and put it like on a big sign, and I would bring those to wrestling events. Nice. And I have one over here of one of my favorite wrestlers, Travis Cole, from around here in Alberta, and it got used as a weapon so many different times. Every time I bring it to events, people will take it and start bashing it on people. It's always the best. I love, just bring something like a cool sign. Wrestlers will always use it. It's the best.
Well, for me, it's not about like the escalation of violence with like the crazier weapon, the light tube, the baseball bat with the nail in it or whatever. I don't really care to see something I've already seen. I want to see it done in a way I've never seen before. Even when I ask the wrestlers that work at WrestleCore for one very simple thing. I say, show me something I've never ever seen before. That's all. Just that one thing. Just do that one thing for me. Show me something I've never ever seen before. And a lot of people, misconstrue that, and they think, oh, I got to take a crazier bump, or I got to do this crazy spot, or I got to kill myself. No. Just make me believe something. If you watch Michael Richard Blaze forearm somebody, I've never seen a forum like that before in my life. It's best forum in the business. You know, people gasp when they see him forum somebody the same way they would gasp if you did a 450 or whatever. You know, that's what I'm talking about. So I think my favorite weapon is not a weapon, it's how it's going to be used. And I'm always excited to watch WrestleCore on YouTube or on the Title Match Network to see those things.
Awesome. And we're going to have to take a look at something that's coming up here, because you said this weekend on Saturday you're going to have that Fans Bring the Weapons match. So for anybody who's watching this who's going to be at that show, be creative. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be like super deadly, but just make it fun. Like when you said like just do something like people have never seen before, like just do something fun. My first instinct wasn't like, hey, let's do some giant move. I was just like, what if you accidentally got spun around and accidentally did like a clothesline to somebody but backwards, and then it worked and you look confused and you're like, hey, that worked.
These are hard for an audience to read, right? And I'd say a lot of happy accidents happen, things that maybe, you know, they weren't discussed, or, you know, you didn't think you were going to do it, but then they wind up happening. Those are like a lot of happy accidents that really make a match exciting to watch. I will say this, though, if you go to the WrestleCore Instagram and go through the stories, our social media manager, she had posted that question, what are you bringing? And she's been responding to it. But I'll say this, there's some really dark answers in there. There's like some stuff in there. I was like, whoa, who hurt you, man? You know what I mean? Like, so if anyone listening wants to contribute their thoughts on a weapon, please go to the WrestleCore Instagram and post what you'd like to see Miles DeVille and Adam Ryder beat each other with.
Just don't be a masochist and say Lego, because apparently that's up there with light tubes, you know what I mean?
I want to meet the fan that brings a bunch of Lego to get destroyed in a wrestling match. Like, Lego is expensive.
I was gonna say it's pricey. Like people are probably bringing Mega Blocks. You know what I mean? That's probably
off-brand, you know, Dutch Legos. I love it.
All right, here's a fun one to kind of end. We are getting close to the end here, and it's just a very simple one from our friend JJ: grilled or fried chicken?
Fried. Come on, what's wrong with you?
I mean, some people like healthy, but I'm not one of those people. I like fried chicken as well.
If you're choosing grilled, wait, is the choice like, do I have to consider all those factors, or are we just going on taste here? Because if it's just pure enjoyment, fried chicken. It's not like grilled chicken in the world.
What if you could only eat one more for the rest of your life? What if we put that stipulation on it?
Again, if it's taste based and I'm like immortal and I'm not going to suffer from gastrointestinal disease or obesity or whatever, fried chicken. In this hypothetical, if this is a real situation, I'm trapped on a desert island and I got to choose the case of grilled chicken or the case of fried chicken. I got one arm and I need to swim with the other arm to get to the desert island from the sinking ship. I take the grilled chicken because, you know, I will help you live longer and, you know, be non-obese and whatever and healthier, I guess. I would be happy about it.
I would just take the grilled chicken and turn it into fried chicken whenever I wanted to. You know what I mean? It's like I'll find an egg and some flour. We'll make this thing work.
Is there a fryer on this desert island we were talking about?
I don't think you need one. I think you could just do it with like, I don't know. I would figure it out. You're on an island. What else are you gonna do with your time?
So I do shamelessly plug things and name drop things. It's, you know, part of my nature.
Please.
It's part of the wrestling business. So I will name drop a thing and put over fried chicken all in one cohesive thought. Bestia 666, phenomenal luchador, you know, one half of the NWA Power Tag Team Champions, La Rebellion with Mecha Wolf. When he comes to Vancouver and performs at WrestleCore, he's got one request. He's the nicest guy in the world. He'll do anything for you. He's amazing. He's got one request, just one thing. He's like, amigo, you got to take me to that chicken place. And it's DL Chicken on Commercial Drive. And if you haven't been to DL Chicken on Commercial Drive, this is my non-paid plug to go to DL Chicken on Commercial Drive. It's like if someone told me there was like crack in the batter, I'd be like, that makes sense.
Where on Commercial Drive is it? Because that's a long road. It's
Commercial and Venables. So it's like right on the kind of corner where basically Commercial Drive starts.
Okay. So yeah. Okay, well that's I'll have to make that trip next time because I went to Commercial and Broadway. I had my Uncle Fatty's when I was there last time. Completely underwhelmed, but I was like, damn.
It's a 6-minute walk from the Wise Hall where Glam Slam takes place, and it is a 6-minute Uber drive from the Rickshaw Theater, which is where WrestleCore's home, where WrestleCore and the Horror on Hastings, November 4th, takes place. So it's a 10-minute walk from the Waldorf where Lucha Libre Spectacular takes place. So there's anybody who comes to a wrestling show, bring me chicken, and you will have my undying gratitude and love.
If you want to get on Cobra's good side, here's my personal recommendation to everybody based on the science that I have figured out today. 1, bring him chicken. While he's eating the chicken, give him a 10-second clip of you doing something pretty fucking awesome. If he likes that and you keep that conversation going, show him your 2-minute version. Then keep him talking while you eat chicken, and then 10 minutes passes by and you have a new friend.
You bring me chicken, I open that box, I start eating the chicken, that's your pitch time right there.
There you go. If somebody doesn't follow this from now on, like if this happens moving forward, like if somebody comes up to you and be like, hey, can I show you this clip and here's some chicken? I'm going to feel very excited about this.
I will 100% tag you in that story if and when that happens. I hope that happens.
I hope it happens. Oh. We have one final question here from the entertainment provider, Justin Cider. Do you prefer beer or cider?
Well, of course, I got to go with my boy Justin Cider. I prefer cider over everything else, pal, through and through.
Absolutely great. Love Justin Cider. Got introduced to him about a year and a half ago. Always love seeing him talk. Wow, so natural on the mic.
Justin Cider and his family have been so. I can't say the word helpful doesn't convey enough what I'm talking about. I couldn't imagine doing a WrestleCore show without Justin Cider and his family there. They have been so essential to the process and supportive, and again, fuel. Sometimes you go through this kind of like vicious cycle, and you go through this kind of valley of despair. You're setting up wrestling rings. You're up at 6 a.m, and you're fixing wrestling rings, and you're dealing with all these fires. And stuff goes out. And I see Justin Cider and his family, and everything's good. Everything's good. And also, literally every time I say his name out loud, it makes me laugh.
It's a good name. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's a quick story before you go.
Sure.
So, Justin Cider, great name. Years ago, I used to help run a wrestling school called the Squared Circle in Toronto, and we had this student show up, and his name was Justin, and Justin was not good. Justin was one of those guys who was like me, just didn't get it. And he kept coming back and stuff like that. And at the time, ECW, wildly popular show, and just incredible, was one of the main eventer guys on ECW. And so one day, Justin comes up to us and he goes, this wrestling student goes, I got a name. I know who I'm going to be. And we're like, okay, go on. He goes, well, Justin Credible, right? And we're like, yeah. He goes, well, how about this? Justin Awesome. So I think you might have missed it. But he did wind up getting a name with Justin in it. We wound up calling him Justin Capable.
Okay. That's a lot better.
And it was accurate.
He's capable. He's there. He's Justin Capable.
He's Justin Capable.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for that story. And thank you so much for joining me here today. Seriously, I really loved this conversation. You really are absolutely knowledgeable about the business. Thank you again for all the hard work that you've been putting in, you and obviously Miss Calamity Kate as one of your, and everybody else who wrestles for WrestleCore out in Vancouver. Everybody who's working hard to build the scene, like legitimately. It is feeling like a new era for Canadian wrestling, especially here in Western Canada. And
absolutely. I've mentioned a ton of people. There's a ton of I unfortunately don't have time to mention, but I will say we're having a good time out here. We're loving what we're doing. We're having a great time. And, come and check out that great time. Come have fun with us. That's what it's all about. Come have dangerous fun with us.
Absolutely. I like that. Dangerous fun. That's what more independent wrestling needs. We need more dangerous fun.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I think I did.
That was your words. You know what? I'm not actually creative. I just take what other people say and I just spew it out again. So then I look clever.
Really done, my friend.
Thanks. Perfect.
Well, I really appreciate the time, and thanks for having me on. And I hope you want to hear more stuff another time.
Absolutely. Well, plug your stuff. Obviously, I have to make it out to a WrestleCore show. Next time I do, I'm putting a microphone in your face. Next time I'm there, we're going to sit down together and we're going to have another conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Shameless plug, follow our socials and follow the socials of the cast and the people we tag, because, building up that online audience, like the whole point of WrestleCore is to give these people a platform that they deserve to be on. You know what I mean? So follow their stuff, show that support. It's free to give a follow or a like to something, and you could be helping build some wrestlers' dreams of going somewhere with it, because that is part of the resume nowadays that all of us promoters look at. Definitely hop on the YouTube channel, check out WrestleCore, watch some of those matches for yourself. And I'd love to hear what people think. I want to hear from more fans. I get a lot of people sending me direct messages. I said, well, put that in the chat, put that like publicly on a post somewhere. So other people can see it, share your thoughts, share your feelings. So definitely check out WrestleCore. Definitely check out WrestleCore on the Title Match Network. I'm so over the moon excited about that relationship. Keep your eyes out for news and updates, because we do have the Lucha show on video ready to go. We got to pick a publishing date for it. So, people tweet out and say, hey, publish it now. if we don't get enough love, maybe I'll hold on to it for a few more weeks. Who knows? hold that show hostage. But yeah,
I know people want to see it, right? So you're just like, hey guys, come on, maybe another 5 likes, maybe another 6 likes.
Rusty 666 and Adam Ryder for the Infinity Championship title. You're gonna see Michael Richard Blaze interject himself into that on night 2. That is where I'm not gonna spoiler alert it, but let's just say that title, you got to keep your eye on that title. It's a dangerous monster of a title. One of the single best wrestling matches I've ever seen in my entire life. G Sharp versus Ciclone Ramirez Jr. Nobody was prepared to see that match. No one was prepared to see that match. Absolutely wild. I asked Greg Sharp, I said, just please let me be your last indie match before you go away on your professional wrestling career and sign to WWE or AEW, wherever he goes, because he's amazing. There's so many notable moments in that Lucha show that you gotta see it to believe it. You've never seen anything like it. You've never seen anything like a WrestleCore show. It doesn't exist anywhere else.
I love that. And like you say, you always try to make it like a fun, different kind of thing, like Circus of Death, right? Like you're not seeing that kind of stuff at like a regular Friday night at your local show. You know what I mean? Like that's something kind of special. And there was a story that was involved with it from the beginning through to the end, which is crazy and great. I love to see that stuff.
Yeah, well, like a lot of wrestling companies, they do this kind of sitcom format where you got to follow along week to week. It's like watching Friends. Is Ross going to hook up with Rachel or not? I don't know. Whereas with WrestleCore, it's very much a bridge to new audience members. And what I mean by that is you can never have seen a wrestling show in your life before. Walk in, and it's like going to a movie. You walk out, you're satisfied. You get the whole story right there. Now, if you have seen the sequels and the prequels or whatever of a WrestleCore show, you're going to get a little more juice out of it for sure. But the whole point of the show was to expose the amazing, dangerous fun that is pro wrestling to people who never would have known about it before. I love that our audience, is there's new faces in there all the time because they're friends. So you got to come see this absolute circus. And we do a lot of really weird theme shows like Circus of Death or the Horror on Hastings or Battle World 88 or Dropkick 3000. I can keep going on, by the way, but I'll rein it in from there.
I appreciate it. Thank you again, Kobra, seriously, for joining me here today. I can't wait to catch my next WrestleCore show next time I'm out in Vancouver. I'm planning specifically around one of those shows, so that way, you know what I mean? Like, that's like an old home to me. I lived there for 5 years. I'm a Burnaby and Coquitlam kid, so you know what I mean? Like, there's enough reasons for me to come back out there, but I'm going to be doing it around a WrestleCore show next time.
There are some great wrestling weekends here. We definitely pivot our show to make sure there's like a whole wrestling weekend here for you. So, absolutely love to see you. Love to see you in person, and at the very least, I'm worth a free drink ticket or two. But
you know what? Next time I show up, I will bring the chicken. How does that sound?
Cobra, love it.
Cobra. All right, buddy.
Best and host Kobra Kai. Follow me at Fight Kobra Kai on all your socials of choice, and prepare for some madness. This we're gonna end this year on a real wild, dangerous bang, and 2023 is just nuts. I'm not even gonna talk about it yet.
Perfect. All right, buddy. You have yourself an absolutely wonderful night, and thank you again.
Great. Thank you, brother.
No
Thank
problem.
you. Have a good night. Thank you to everyone who listened. Drop me a comment.
Bye-bye, buddy.
Later. Cobra.
A big thank you once again to Kobra for joining me here today. Such an informative, fun chat. Like I was saying, the guy has a brilliant mind. He knows so much about the Vancouver scene. He's put on some amazing shows, I loved this one. So I really hope you enjoyed it. If you liked what you heard, remember to click on that subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment below about somebody you would like to see or something you would like to see improved here in Wrestlesode for Season 3. Because like I said, we are coming towards the end of Season 2, and we want to make sure that we are constantly improving, moving into Season 3 here in a couple of weeks. All right, that does it for me. Have yourself a wonderful day.